Coming up in this APU News Update, excitement builds as students prepare for last week's Model UN conference with APU's delegation and surprise guest students from Myanmar. We're reflecting on global diplomacy and international relations. Last Friday, AUV took a captivating field trip to the ancient Misung Sanctuary with Professor Jim Barnhart, exploring the rich history of the Champa Kingdom. In a special interview with teachers, we dive into the challenges students would face in their classes as finals approach and how they can overcome these hurdles to succeed. This week, APU students shared their gratitude and love for their teachers and families during our Thanksgiving celebrations as a school community gathered to give thanks and reflect on the year ahead.
This is an APU News Update. Now, here's Lindsay Paperny.
APU was geared up for the much-anticipated Harvard Model United Nations Conference.
Why you believe what you believe.
Last week, where students would represent countries from around the world discussing key global issues, the conference involved speeches that discuss how to eloquently produce a good speech in the eye of an audience, polishing speaking skills during the process and parliamentary procedure for an upcoming Model United Nations Conference.
In a disrupted and wartime right now.
Of harassment, children's rights, women's rights are being costed.
About 64% of young people in France say they are stressed because of their studies.
Decisions. And because of the funding issues for this solution.
Restraining individuals with mental health issues while also acknowledging the challenges of limited access to
training and recruitment of mental health professionals, and stigma has not been totally erased from the government.
The conference was delivered by two Harvard students, senior Arsema Aklog and sophomore Jessica Zhu, who shared their experiences on giving public speeches and delivering smooth and impactful statements in an MUN conference. We spoke to them about their conference and their first impressions of Vietnam and their experience on facilitating our students and our visiting Myanmar guests.
I've had a phenomenal experience in Vietnam, especially at school teaching. It's been such an incredible experience to see delegates who went from not even knowing what parliamentary procedure was, not knowing how to make a motion, to make some of the most eloquent speeches that I have seen in an MUN debate. Everyone was so kind, and I learned just as much from the delegates as I know that they learned from our workshops. And it doesn't hurt that Vietnam is also a very beautiful country.
Yeah, so when I first came here, day one, I was a little nervous because I've never taught MUN before, and I was nervous that the delegates weren't going to be like super responsive, but I was delightfully surprised, and all of the delegates that I've worked with were super responsive, super respectful, and I genuinely really enjoyed teaching them. Everyone was super sweet, and I've also never been to Vietnam before, so this was an amazing 3 days for me to get accustomed to what students are like here, what the Da Nang is like here, and yeah, I've loved my experience so far.
Among the participants were Myanmar students from King's Yangon International School who shared their unique perspective on their visit to Vietnam and the conference, on how it informs their understanding of international diplomacy. In our exclusive interview, they reflected on their involvement in Model United Nations and the importance of students-led discussions in shaping future leaders.
It's actually really good so far. I think my stay was very worth it, as I got to learn a lot and meet new people. The program is very well made. I really enjoyed it, as I got to learn lots from both the mentors, and yeah.
I'm enjoying it very well. Everyone's very outgoing, very friendly, and very outgoing, and yeah, creating a very bright and positive environment for me. I'm learning a lot from this program, including the culture diversity and also collaborating with my peers with diverse backgrounds.
It's great. It's really fun, really helpful. I've met new friends, and overall Da Nang is just a very fun place to be at.
It's a great experience. I gained a very fun and new experience. At first, it was a very unfamiliar environment, but then the more I stayed there, the more I grew to like it, and now I'm really gonna miss it.
The event promised and delivered a valuable experience for all involved, fostering critical thinking and global awareness. This fall semester, AUV, the American University in Vietnam, Da Nang, is offering an Introduction to Southeast Asia class with American professor Dr. James Barnhart. Introduction to Southeast Asia surveys the traditional cultures, achievements, and values of the region from the classical period through the European colonialism and the World War II. Concluding with the formation of newly independent states after 1945, this past week, students of the Southeast Asia class visit the UNESCO World Heritage Site of My Sơn, Quảng Nam Province as a part of their studies. My Sơn consists as a group of Hindu temples, ruins that were constructed by the Champa kings. Between the 4th and 13th century, My Sơn is located near the village of Duy Phu in Quảng Nam Province.
Four heads, four faces on one head. So 4 is Brahma, 8 is Vishnu. So you see this thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, that is 8 sides. And then Shiva is round. So it's Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma.
Ahead of finals, with finals right around the corner, many students are feeling the pressure. We sat down with several of APU's most dedicated teachers to discuss the common challenges students face in their classes and how they can prepare to overcome this in the coming weeks. Other teachers shared their tips on active note-taking, asking for clarification when needed, and staying organized in the lead up to the exams. With the right strategies and productive mindset, students can set themselves for a successful finals approach.
Hello, Vice Principal Ms. Deb. What is the question for this week is, what is the challenge that your students struggle with and how do they improve it?
The hardest thing that my students struggle with is speaking English while they're not in English class. The expectation for everyone here is to speak English in the hallways, in the cafeteria, in the library, and during class together. But that seems to be the toughest thing for us to do, is to speak English only while we're in school.
In my opinion, students often have some basic problems, especially in my class where we are learning ELD, grammar at the advanced level. So the thing is that my students think they do very well, in the lesson. They do assignments very well, and they do the review test very well, but they do not often review, what they have done. So that I think that the problem is not in their ability to do everything in our lesson, but it depends on how they look back at their learning and identify some key areas for learning, to find their weaknesses, to find their strong points, so that they can discover them and know how to improve them. And that is one thing I can identify in their learning process.
Well, I'd say so in sports there's something called skills acquisition. So when you start playing a new sport, there might be basic techniques that students might struggle with because they have not played the sport before. And what we tend to do is we break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then we just go step by step with those, bite-sized information, and make sure that students understand it fully before moving on to the next part.
First of all, cumpleaños feliz, señor.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Lindsay.
Second, our question for this week is, what is a challenge that your students face in your class, and how should they improve it?
Well, learning a new language is always challenging. However, Spanish is not the most difficult language. We don't have tones like in Vietnamese. We don't have these drawings like in Chinese. It's the same alphabet like in Vietnamese, not like Korean that it has another alphabet. So the big challenge here is the verbs. The verbs, that's the big challenge in Spanish, because There are many subject pronouns to learn, and of course we have the irregular verbs.
This week, APU students and staff came together for a warm and heartfelt Thanksgiving celebration. The school's annual potluck saw a variety of dishes from different cultures as families shared in the traditional of giving thanks. Students wrote notes of gratitude for their peers and teachers, and the community reflected on what they are thankful for this year. The Thanksgiving gathering was a wonderful reminder of the importance of community, kindness, and appreciation for the people who make a difference in our lives. That's all for today. Remember to leave a comment down below, like our video if you're interested in seeing more, share with a friend. This has been your APU News Update. I'm Lindsay Paperny, and until next time, fly high, Eagles.